Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya 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 Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Jaya Yasodhana Nana Bhaja Janaranjana Yasodhana Nana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamuna Deva Vanachari Jaya Kunya Yamuna Deva Vanachari Jaya Kunya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We continue reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, and Canto 6, Chapter 1, the history of the life of Ajamil, text 7, which is on the board. Shri Sukha Uvacha Yachati Haiva Pashitim Yatamasa Kitasya koyan mana uktapanibi. Tuvam savai prityanarakan upaiti. Ye kirtita me bhavatas tichna yatana. Shri Shuka uvacha. Nashati aiva pashitim yatamasa. Kitasya koyan mana uktama manibi. Tuvam savai pritkan narakan upaiti. Ye kirtita me bhavatas tichna yatana. Shri Shuka uvacha. Nashati aiva pasitim yatamasa. Kitasya koyan mano uktapanibi. Tuvam savai prityanarakan upaiti. Ye kirtita me bhavatas tichma yatana. Shri Shuka uvacha. Yasati aiva pashitim yatamasa. Kitasya koyan mana uktapanibi. Tuvam savai prityanarakan upaiti. Ye kirtita me bhavatas tichna yatana. Shri Shuka uvacha. Nasati haiva pasitim yatamasa. Kitasya koyan manuktapanibi. Tuvam savai prityanarakan upaiti. Ye kirtita me bhavatas tichma yatana. Word for word translation. Shri Shuka uvacha. Shri Sukadev Goswami said, Na, not, chit, if, iha, within this life, eva, certainly, apashitim, counteraction atonement, yata, duly, amasakritasya, when one has performed sinful activities, Kuryat performs, mana with the mind, ukta words, panibihi and with the senses, truvam undoubtedly, saha that person, vai indeed, pretya after death, narakan different varieties of hellish conditions, upaiti attains, ye which kirtita were already described, me by me, bhavata unto you, Tichmayatana, in which there is very terrible suffering. Translation and purport by Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Another translation. Sukadev Goswami replied, My dear king, if before one's next death, whatever impious acts one has performed in this life, with the mind, words, and body, are not counteracted to proper atonement according to the description of the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras, one will certainly enter the hellish planets after death and undergo terrible suffering, as I have previously described to you. Commentary. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that although Maharaj Pariksit was a pure devotee, Sukadev Goswami did not immediately speak to him about the strength of devotional service, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mamsayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogana sevata sagunan samatichedam brahma bhuya kalpate. Devotional service is so strong that if one fully surrenders to Krishna and takes fully to his devotional service, the reactions of his sinful activity life immediately stop. Elsewhere in the Gita 1866, Lord Krishna urges that one give up all other duties and surrender unto him, and he promises, armed from sarva papabhyo mokshaishyami, I shall free you from all sinful reactions and give you liberation. Therefore, in response to the inquiries of Pariksit Maharaj, Sukadev Goswami's guru could have immediately explained the principle of bhakti, but to test Pariksit Maharaj's intelligence, he first prescribed atonement according to Karma Kanda, the path of fruitive activities. For Karma Kanda, there are 8 authorized scriptures, such as the Manu Samhita, which are known as the Dharma Shastras. In these scriptures, one is advised to counteract his sinful acts by performing other types of fruitive action. This was the path first recommended by Sukadev Goswami to Maharaj Pariksit, and actually it is a fact that one who does not take to devotional service must follow the decisions of the scriptures by performing pious acts to counteract his impious acts. This is known as atonement. Read the verse again. Sisuka uvacha natsat ahaiva pashitim yatam asa kitasya koyan manauktapmani panipi tuvamsa vaipretyan rakanupaitia yekirtitame bhavatas tihma yatanaya. Sukadev Goswami replied, My dear king, if before one's next death, whatever impious acts one has performed in this life with his mind, words, and body are not counteracted to proper atonement, according to the descriptions of the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras, one will certainly enter the hellish planets after death and undergo terrible suffering, as I have previously described to you. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnanjana Shalakaya Shakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shitchaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svamrupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeyam Shiyuda Padakamalam Shiram Vaishnavam Sa Shirupam Jagajatam Saganrakanatam Vitam Tam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savarutam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalita Shivishakam Vitam Shah. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Chatpati Kyo Gopesh Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansna Gaura Hira Devi Navanashvi Vishabana Sutadevi Pranamama Haripriya Vancha Kalptrubhisha Kripa Sinvevsha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Nama Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachai Desatarni Srila Prabhupada Ki. So, Maharaj Pariksit asked about those who go to these hellish planets, because he heard these descriptions at the end of the 5th canto. And as we discussed yesterday and the day before, a Vaishnava is Paradukha Dukhi. He suffers because of the suffering of others, that he feels this compassion. And he's asking, how can these people avoid going to this house? Because if you have performed sinful activities, or impious activities, then you must suffer for that and go to these hellish planets right after death. That has been described in the 5th canto. That, of course, impious activities. Now, what Sukadev Goswami says here, he answers from the viewpoint of those who are not interested in transcendence and who do not perform devotional service, do not want to accept God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, for them, how can they counteract? Because they believe only in what they experience, the body, the mind, so that's their realm of experience, and they want to stay in that. If they have performed such people, if they have performed impious activities, how can they get rid of their karmic reactions, their karma, so that they don't have to suffer right after death? This is about the karma performed in this life. Before you die, it must be counteracted, or you will suffer. And now, there are different methods to counteract that. And the first method here, given by Sukadev Goswami, is called Prayashchita. Prayashchita, atonement. Man will counteract impious activities with pious activities. And with atonement, austerities. And they are explained in the Shastras, in the scriptures, meant for those who follow this karma kanda. And Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, Dharma Shastra, Manu Samhita. That's described there. So, of course, Maharaj Pariksit will make the point in a few verses later that this is not a solution. Why do they perform sinful activities? Because they desire. They desire to enjoy this world in an illicit way. That it's like, yes, we drive on the road, but we have the desire to drive fast. But the law said, no, that's a speed limit. And you go over it, yeah, you will be punished. If, of course, if they catch you, but karma is different. On the level of karma, they catch you always. The super soul is there. If you perform sinful activities, you will get reactions. No escape. So one of the methods here is then, yes, prayashita. And these rules, they are in the Manu Samhita. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can read that, yes. A Hindu had become a Muslim somewhere or another. They tricked him to become a Muslim. But then he went to a Brahmin priest and said, I want to atone for that. I want to atone for that. And the Brahmin said, yes, it's in the Brahma Samhita. The atonement for that, you must drink the boiled lead. Yeah. That, of course, that means you have to die and take rebirth, and that's your atonement. So that's... This is... but this is not a solution. Because it's all on the level of the body and the mind, and we are not the body and the mind. That then you take birth again and get reactions. And if you are, and by the prayashita, by the atonement, by the austerities you do, which are described, you can get rid of the reactions. And that is what Sukadev Goswami says here. But this is one method. There are many other methods to get rid of sinful reactions. Another method is the Shraddha ceremony, which is performed right after the passing away of the relative. They perform the Shraddha ceremony, and by the son of the deceased, that he performs offerings to the forefathers, offers them prasad, offers to Vishnu. That mostly Indian traditions still, Indians, they still do that. And then their relatives, which have left their body, they are released from all these reactions that and can get to higher planets. But of course, it's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, if you perform activities in the mode of ignorance, you go to the hellish planets. Sinful activities, you see. That you go to the hellish planets and you take animal forms, become an animal in your next life. That's if you perform, mainly sinful activities in the modes of passion, desire to enjoy, yes, you will go to these hellish planets that before going to the earthly planets again. It's such, all these reactions, and then you take birth again, and what is changed? Even if you counteract all this sinful activity, what is changed? You are still in the cycle of birth and death, old age and disease. Then you have this Shraddha ceremony that may prevent them to go there, to these hellish planets. But then you have also the process of jnana yoga. The jnanis who perform austerities, give up sense gratification, and gradually they become purified after many lifetimes. It's a very long process. But then you have the yoga system, Astanga yoga system. They become also purified, but it's very mechanistic by breathing exercises and so on. May take many births. That's a very difficult process. But what's the root problem here? Why are they doing these sinful activities? Why are they engaging in illicit sex? Why are they drinking alcohol? Why are they eating meat, flesh, and so on? Why are they doing these sinful activities? So that doesn't change. Because they desire this. Because of lust. And the lust is not removed from the heart by this atonement. They may atone for it, but they will do it again. So therefore, Maharaj Pariksit will answer his spiritual master. He said, what's the use? It's like the bathing of an elephant. So in India you can see an elephant taking a bath in the Ganges or in the river and comes out and he's clean, and then with his trunk he takes dirt from the road or from the beach, sand, and he throws it on his back again and he's dirty again. So that's what's happening. That Sukadev Goswami will explain. It's like you have a field of bamboos. Bamboos are growing, and all the bamboo is cut just above the root, and all the bamboo is gone. The whole bamboo forest. It's all cut above the root. But then it starts to rain again, and the bamboo starts to grow again. And in no time it's there again, because the root is still there. So the root for doing sinful activities. But this root, it's the illusion that we are this body. And why is this illusion there? Because we have forgotten Krishna. If we forget Krishna, what happens? That we are focused on ourselves. And we think this is mine, and this is for my enjoyment. But nothing is ours in this world. We are here for a very short time. Then you are out. who was the owner before and who will be the owner after. Everything comes from Krishna. He's the owner. And therefore he's the rightful enjoyer. So the devotee has this knowledge, and he uses everything not for his own sense gratification, but for the pleasure of the Lord. And he gives up this conception of I and mine, and therefore he becomes peaceful. Because it's by these conceptions of I and mine that one becomes disturbed. This is mine, and someone has damaged it or taken it away, or someone has this and that, and I feel sorry for that, I want that also. One becomes jealous, envious. That all develops from that desire. And if we look at it closer, this enjoyment, for who is this enjoyment? It's for the body, not for the soul. You can eat so much, as much as you can, but at the end you will feel miserable. It's all for the body. It's all for the mind, which we are not. The mind is an instrument we use. We are not a thinking, feeling, and willing. That happens in our minds. That if you can control your thinking, feeling, and willing, what is controlling the thinking, feeling, and willing? We control the mind with the intelligence. And the intelligence is directed by our desires, by the soul. So the mind is an instrument we use. So these are very important teachings here. This counteracting of sinful activities described here are those who are not interested in spiritual life. But still, Sukadeva Goswami speaks also to them and tells them, this is what you can do. But better, a few verses further, that he will say, yes, the solution is Kevala Bhakti. That this prayashita is useless, this atonement. Because the punishment is also for the body, not for the soul. But if one performs devotional service, and that's the point Srila Prabhupada makes in the purport, he goes straight to the real solution. Mam siyo vyabhicharina bhakti urgnat sevati sagunan samati chetam bhama bhuya kalapati. If you perform pure devotional service means acting out of love for Krishna, only doing things for the pleasure of Krishna and nothing for me, forget about me. Then you come on the transcendental platform, then the soul becomes connected with Krishna and feels ecstatic, so happy we will feel. But we have to give up this I and mine. And just by the power of this devotional service, this atonement is already done. The devotee is not concerned with that, and must not be concerned with these things. But we should be concerned with how to perform this pure devotional service. So this is not for devotees. devotees very quickly if they perform devotional service. First, Srila Prabhupada says in the Prabhupada, their karma stopped, their karmic reactions. But what's the condition to come to that point that it karma stops? It's this Ananya Bhakta. That Hiya Yasyare Dasye Karma Namanasagari Nikalash Apyavaste Sujivan Mukta Sauchate. Srila Prabhupada writes in the, well, this is a verse from Rupa Goswami from Nectar of Devotion. And there Srila Prabhupada quotes that many times. He says, if you perform devotional service with your body, mind, you dedicate your body, your mind, your convictions, everything to the service of the Lord, then you are Jivan Mukta, liberated. That does not mean you are already pure in heart, but you act with purity, only for the pleasure of Krishna. Then this is applicable. Karma stops. But pure devotional service means feeling this compassion for others, which has been described in the previous verses. Why are others suffering? A devotee has no suffering, has no problems. If you perform this pure devotional service and act as a liberated soul as described by Prabhupada, then there are no problems. Because on the spiritual platform there are no problems. There is no suffering. Does not exist. For the soul, there is no suffering. What is suffering? It's the mind and the body. Suffering is experienced there. And that's produced by the modes of the three modes of material nature. Why do we suffer as a spirit soul if we are transcendental? Because the spirit soul is there in the body and is the source of consciousness which pervades the body. And if that consciousness is polluted by these three modes, which makes us think that we are the body, that we think we are man, woman, German, English, whatever, it's all false. We are not these things. That belongs to the body. And if we identify with this body, think that we are this bag of skin with all its flesh inside, then we suffer. Therefore, but how can you get rid of this misconception? Yes, we hear Bhagavad Gita and this knowledge. You can absorb in this knowledge, but that's not sufficient. To get rid of that misconception, we must again start acting as a spirit soul and not as the body. That is required. Acting as a spirit soul. And what is that acting as a spirit soul? We have a relationship with Krishna, who is in every atom in this world. Because he's the source of everything, he's in everything. If you are the source of everything, you must be in everything. But because the cause is always in the result. Always. He's always there. We cannot be separated from Krishna. Because he's the doer in this world. But by these modes of ignorance and passion, we identify with this body, and foolishly we think that we are the doer, the controller in this world. But who controls what in this world? Everything what you desire happens in your life? No. That we are not in control. That's knowledge. And thinking that we are in control is foolishness. We are only a minor role as so-called controllers. We desire that. And with our desires, we identify with the body, or we identify with the soul. Material desires are meant for the body, which we are going to lose anyway. That spiritual desires are meant to please Krishna. And from the moment we have Krishna in our mind starts to become purified from all this influence of these modes. So this is an there are important points to understand that we learn from these chapters. That this prayaschitta, atonement, it does not work. But most people in this world, they don't believe in that. It's nice to say, I don't believe in that. But how do you explain suffering? Suffering is perfectly explained by the law of karma. 3 kinds of karma: akarma, vikarma, and karma. That pious activities, impious activities, that's the field of karma. And akarma is the transcendental platform. And unless we come to the transcendental platform, we will not become purified. We will continue identifying with this body. Therefore, transcendental activities that are required to solve that. And all these yoga processes, jnana yoga, Astanga yoga, this karma kanda, this karma yoga, it's not going to purify your desire. It's not going to change your desire. How can we change our desire? Paramdristvani vartate, by getting a higher taste. How do we get a higher taste? By performance of devotional service in 9 forms. Shravana, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. And it starts with the first 3 are the most important. Hearing about Krishna. Because we hear about Krishna, we understand that we are not a controller and that we are the servant of Krishna. We are a part of Krishna, the soul. Therefore, it's natural to live in a relationship with Krishna. And then these misconceptions go. It's because our desires that we hear. The conditioned soul, Srila Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita, it desires to be put in certain conditions of life. And by our desire, we are put in these conditions. And you get what you desire according to what you deserve, following your activities in previous lives. We see here Maharaj Pariksit is being cursed to die in 7 days. But he was already a devotee, a pure devotee of Krishna. And he could have counteracted the curse very easily. But he did not do it. He did not desire it. He saw this is the desire of the Lord, that I hear the Bhagavatam for the welfare of all living beings. He understood that. So a devotee is not interested in counteracting sinful activities. He's interested to come to his real position as a spiritual soul and act as a spirit soul. And that's devotional service, because it's natural. Krishna is a supreme Lord, and we are his part and parcels. And therefore we have a relationship. We are intimately related with God. Like Srila Prabhupada explains, you analyze a drop of water of the ocean, and you will see there is salt in it. Then you can imagine what amount of salt there is in the ocean. So if we study ourselves, we can understand God to a certain extent, not completely. There are qualities we have. There are qualities Krishna has which we don't have, because he is the supreme controller, all-pervading. But we are of the same spiritual quality. Quantitatively, we are minute. The spirit soul is in the heart, 1/10,000 of a point of a hair. And Krishna is all-pervading. He is the supreme controller. Because we are minute, we are easily captivated by the material energy, by our desires. It's by our desire that we contact either the material or the spiritual energy. That's up to us. We contact the spiritual energy by giving up our I and mine, our false ego, and start acting according to our real ego, which is we are servants of God. But if we don't want to serve God, then we serve our senses. We serve ourselves. And then you come under this law of karma. And you get all these reactions, which are terrible. So this is knowledge. It's a purity of consciousness so purifying our consciousness is attained easily by the performance of devotional service. And you will get a higher taste. We don't have a problem of eating prasad. Mostly that's the easy part. That prasad is prepared for Krishna with devotion, with love. Therefore, it's so tasty, so nice. So that's the first experience of devotees. Easy to give up eating meat, fish and eggs. Soon you think, I don't want to eat whatever. It's horrible. So that's easy. But then to give up this lust, especially this sexual attachment and so on, that takes a while. But it's so strong, devotional service, that soon the heart will become purified. But one must know how to practice devotional service. It's a whole study. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave us Nectar of Devotion. It's the manual for practice, devotional service, with 64 items of devotional service. And that must be learned from someone who is expert in it. How to connect your consciousness every moment with Krishna. And that doesn't happen overnight. There's a purification process also in devotional service. But if we perform it according to the rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti soon, your desire will change. You desire to become pure. You desire to live a life, a blissful life as a devotee. And give up this suffering of identifying with this body and trying to exploit this world for a body which is very temporary and soon useless. A devotee is fixed on eternal life. What's eternal? So, thank you. Any comments, questions, please? Yes, please.
So, if we are not in control of our reality and God is in everything and everybody, what is the point of living then? Because I thought if you are spiritual, it's even easier for you to create your reality and to connect to God because you created everything for you.
Yeah. Did you read Bhagavad Gita?
Excuse me?
Did you read Bhagavad Gita?
No.
Please read it.
What is this?
This is Bhagavad Gita, is the essence of spiritual life, which is explained by Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That I advise you, read that. And that it's a bit more complicated. That you missed a few points that I said. I said we are in control of our destiny by our desire. We are in control by our desire. But we are not a controller in this material world. This body is not under your control. It becomes older, right? You had a body of a boy before. You had a baby body. Every 6 years, all the cells of your body change according to the scientists. So you had another body. So where is your body now? Your baby body, where is it? That if you are the body, then you are another person now. But no, we know inside, I'm the consciousness in this body. I'm the person. We say you, we say me. I'm in the heart here. The soul is there. From the soul comes consciousness. That's the source of consciousness, which is spread all over the body. And this soul moves from body to body under the control of Paramatma, local aspect of God in the heart. It's Krishna who makes your heart beat. Do you have control over your heart beating?
I mean, technically, you can just make it stop like that.
Yeah, good luck.
You could. I'm just saying that you could. So I don't know. Maybe we. Someone does that during the day. Sometimes you stop your heart.
Someone? No?
I mean, you can, if you kill yourself, what happens?
Probably?
If you kill yourself, what happens?
Yeah, that what happens is explained in the scripture. Then you don't get immediately another body. You become a ghost for some time. That is what happens. That's all this described in the scriptures. It's in the Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita. All this knowledge is there. But when you eat, do you control your digestion?
No.
You don't even know how it goes, but it happens. No. Krishna explains it in Bhagavad Gita. I'm controlling these things. I'm controlling where you take birth. I'm controlling what kind of body you will have. That's God's arrangements for you according to your past activities. And thinking we are in control of that, it's just sheer arrogance. Our control is very little. But what we control is our desire. And Krishna gives us the liberty, we desire what we want. But according to our desire, if our desire is fixed on the false idea that we are the body, then you stay in this material world, go from life to life. Always the same thing, taking birth, getting older, and then disease comes before you die, and then you die. And it starts over again. And probably not for most people in this world, probably not as a human being, but as an animal or a lower being, because they perform these sinful activities. And that's what we are speaking about today. And this gives the remedy how to get out of birth, death, old age, and disease. And the remedy to become happy in this world, in this life, and the next. And that is yes. But control, does everything what you want in desire in your life, does it happen? Mostly not. Because you are being put in circumstances according to your past activities. And Krishna says you must be responsible. That's what you've done in your past life, and now you must face the reactions. It's supreme justice. And Krishna applies that. But we are studying here the method to come out of this, to get rid of all these reactions and become happy. Unless you become rid of these reactions, you will not feel happy. If the heart is contaminated with lust, anger, greed, envy, you cannot be happy. But if the heart is full of love and always giving to others, living for the pleasure of Krishna and for others, then you become a very beautiful person, very good character. And, so that is what we try to explain today, but it's a big science, a deep science. And therefore I'm just proposing that you learn the ABC of this science by reading Bhagavad Gita once in your life. that it's not a big endeavor. And you will hear what Krishna says. You can get the Bhagavad Gita here. But, thank you. So,
I've got a question, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Unless somebody else would like to go first, I'm patient.
No, it's okay.
Thank you. So you're explaining how with Parashchitta and Shraddha, we are eliminating the reaction from our activities, the sinful reaction, in this birth. And then, of course, we take birth again. The seed of desire is still in the heart. But then we're clear. However, when going through this world, we experience that individuals are subjected to, the three kleshas, right? Which are somehow or other, which I have understood to be acting according to the individual's past karma. So what I don't understand then is that if a person has performed the Shraddha ceremony and they've done the Prayaschitta, atonement, they take birth again, but then still they're subjected to the three kleshas. And I understand that part of the karma is a seed, in the heart to perform some sinful activity, some activity that we think will bring us happiness. But what is that karma from?
Yeah, first of all, we are speaking here to what we are discussing is are the sinful activities in this life. And the question is not going to these hellish planets. For your sinful activities in this life does not mean there are sinful activities from previous lives and you went already before Yamaraj for that, and you have been punished in the hellish planets for that. But this punishment in the hellish planets is only an introduction of what follows. It is described that if you have performed, if you have eaten meat and so on, you go to the hellish planets and you will be bitten by these animals and so on. And if you have to become an animal in your next life, if you have to become a hog, then in your subtle body, because this punishment is in the subtle body. It's a subtle body. When the gross body dies, the subtle body, Paramatma brings the subtle body to its next destination. But if you have performed these sinful activities, you come first before Yamaraj, and then you are trained for your next body. You have to become a hog. You are trained to eat stool till you like it. And then you go into your next body. So it's an introduction, what happens there. And the question here is, how can we avoid going through this process in these hellish planets? But that does not mean by Prayachita that you get rid of all your karma. That's karma, Prayachita. Some karma will be gone from this life, but the karma of your previous life is also still there. It's not by that Prayachita that your karma from previous lives is gone. And it's an enormous stock of karma. You cannot imagine. We discussed yesterday. You eat meat or you kill a cow, and you have to take birth as much as you have to take birth after birth as much as there are hairs on the body of the cow. It's just beyond imagination what kind of karma that we have created in previous lives. But this prayachita is useless. If you perform devotional service, chanting the holy names of Krishna, that's one method, but it's an important method, especially in this age, because we are not qualified to do many of the other processes. But if we perform it without offenses, then very quickly all this karma is gone. And that's what Krishna says. Sarvadam Pricham Mamakam Sramacham Tvam Sarvapabhyam Oksishyan Imachacha. Then it's all gone. Because this karma and these reactions, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it's very difficult to understand these karmas and these reactions. That it says in the 4th chapter. So this is very difficult to understand. The intricacies of karma are very difficult to understand. To understand this, one must understand how action is within action and inaction within action. And that's very important to understand. That during the Bhakti Shastri class, I explained that action within action and inaction within action. And I tell them I will ask that up your exam. Not the exam, 90% answers wrong. So what is inaction within action? If the action is spiritual, then there is no karma. It's like inaction on the material platform. So there is inaction within action. And that's important. And that is what Arjuna did not understand. He wanted to be inactive and become a beggar. But if you act for Krishna, then you are materially inactive. There is no reaction. So these are the intricacies of karma. And it's not easy to understand. But do we need to understand all these things in detail? No, we have to get rid of that karma. That's most important. That the karma kandis, they are interested. They have interest in it. But anyway, does that help a bit? Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Shantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.